I apologize for the situation. It's not what I wanted at all. I checked with my sister to confirm if it's true. But it's not the right time for this discussion, Emily. You really need to come first. When I noticed my hand raised towards both of them, I felt heartless. I never wanted to go through anything like this, but because of my husband and sister, I'm left with a memory that will always haunt me. I had made a promise that they wouldn't be able to see my niece again. I had agreed to pick up Emily from preschool that day. My sister had insisted, "Please pick up Emily tomorrow too." I questioned her urgency, reminding her that as a stay-at-home wife, she had plenty of time. She then revealed that Emily was sick. Ignoring her excuses, I heard my niece coughing on the phone. I asked if Emily was sick, but my sister brushed it off, asking me to do her a favor because she was going abroad. She requested me to keep Emily for a week, which I found unreasonable. I was about to refuse when my sister threatened to leave Emily at the preschool if no one came to pick her up. Later, I received an unexpected call from the preschool. They had tried reaching my sister but couldn't. My niece, who had a slight fever that day, had lost consciousness and was rushed to the hospital. Despite rushing to the hospital, it was too late. My husband and I had been married for 5 years without children, despite our efforts in family planning. My sister, who had a baby 3 years ago, kept insisting that I take care of her child to prepare for my own in the future. Though hesitant, I found my niece adorable and agreed to take care of her again. The next day, I informed my husband about the urgent work trip and asked for his help with Emily. He assured me that it wouldn't affect the contract, but as the sales lead, he needed to fly out early the next morning to attend to the client personally. I will. Are you going to be okay on your own? If it's too hard, I'll go to my parents. I'll be fine. Thanks. Have a safe trip. At that moment, I thought I just had no luck because my niece is very attached to my husband. When I had taken care of her before, she was crying at night, and I was having a hard time with it. My husband took her in his arms and calmed her down. So, I was confident that my husband would be there if anything happened to her this time. But it's only natural to put work first. I was prepared for exhaustion. The next day, I got a call from the preschool. I rushed to the hospital and found my niece's body full of tubes. She was unconscious. The teachers at the preschool were also very upset. The director of the preschool was critical to me. "You're really her mother's sister, right?" "Yes, I am," I replied. "We've been trying to reach your sister, but we can't. We've called her workplace too. They said she's on vacation. Where is your sister now?" "She's overseas," I replied. The director's eyes widened. "So, that's what happened." The director spoke quickly, recounting today's conversation with my sister. My niece's face was flushed when she attended the preschool. When they checked the daily temperature, which needed to be done at home, they were blank. The preschool refused to accept the child with a blank temperature sheet. Then, they took her temperature this morning. It was 35.8 degrees Celsius. The preschool cannot accept a child with a fever over 35.5 degrees Celsius. The director told my sister to take the child home. My sister said that the child's temperature was usually high, so there's no problem. She overrode the teacher's attempt to stop her and left the preschool. After that, they tried to contact her several times, but when they couldn't reach her, they called our parents. Parents are working. They're not home during the day. In addition, the only emergency contact information listed was her parents. The teachers were stumped. They found an old emergency contact number that was submitted a year ago, and they had called me. This should never have happened. The director's voice was quiet and trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes as we looked at my niece. "I am so sorry. I apologized to the director and the chaperone and sent them back to the school. I tried to contact my sister right away, but it was disconnected. I called her dozens of times, hundreds of times, but she never picked up the phone. Meanwhile, my parents, whom I called, rushed to the hospital. It's okay. Emily's gonna be okay. That's what my mother kept telling herself. Don't worry, we're in a hospital, my father assured me. But the treatment didn't help, and her symptoms only got worse. All the while, I kept calling my sister, but I couldn't get through. 2 days later, the little life was lost without recovery. A child of only 3 years old who died without the warmth of a mother's touch. How could such a heartless thing be? I could not stop my tears as I touched her cold little body. Why didn't I ask my sister where she was traveling? Why didn't I stop her from going? I couldn't help but blame myself. It's not your fault. My mother spoke softly to me as I broke down in tears, but even she had tears streaming down her face. I tried repeatedly to contact my husband to let him know what had happened, but I couldn't reach him either. Time flies even when you're in the depths of despair. In the end, I held a funeral for my niece without any contact with my sister. This was the day she told me she was coming back from her trip. I was ready to pick up the call as soon as I heard from her. I unceremoniously brought my phone to the funeral, and while the monks were chanting sutras, my phone trembled. Oh, hello. Thank you for taking care of Emily. I just arrived at the airport. I'm on my way home now. What would you like for a souvenir? What are you doing? You. What? I can't hear you. You took a child's life. Emily, she died. Do you have any idea how lonely she was? Oh no, it's not funny. It's not funny, right? Right, it's not funny. None of us are laughing. I couldn't control my emotions. I exhaled several times to calm myself down. I'm in the middle of Emily's funeral, so get back here as soon as you can. I hung up the phone. I'm sorry. I apologized for stopping the chanting, but the monk gently placed his hand on my head. After the funeral, as I was getting ready to leave for the crematorium, my sister arrived out of breath, and behind her, for some reason, my husband was there. No way, right? My sister broke down crying at the side of my niece. Why? My husband stood dumbfounded behind my sister. The relatives looked at her coldly, but no one blamed her. I think it was out of consideration for Emily. I didn't speak to her or to my husband until after the cremation. I think Emily was waiting for her mother. After the cremation, we went back to my parents' house, and my sister got a lot of blame from my parents. I listened in silence until my eyes fell on their carry-on case. Why were they at the same location? What I saw was a sticker that the airline puts on the handle of the suitcases. They were both coming back from the same airport. My sister clammed her mouth shut and didn't say anything. Then, my husband opened his mouth. I'm sorry. It's just as you see. Is this true? I didn't mean for things to turn out like this. Is this true? I asked my sister, but it wasn't the right time for that conversation. Emily, you have to put Willie first, I urged. When I realized I was raising my hand to both of them, it wasn't because of their infidelity. It was because I couldn't tolerate their behavior when it came to my niece. Stop your tears. You have no right to shed tears. You received hundreds of calls from me. Why is it so hard to think that something could have happened to your own child? While you two are enjoying your stupid adulterous trouble, Emily suffered and died. You'll never be forgiven for your sin. You should all just die a slow, agonizing death. I'm sorry, my sister whispered. You think this is your penance to Emily? You think you're being honest right now, but you're just as guilty. You ignored my calls too. You left my niece to die, and you're responsible for it too. Go to hell. My parents didn't stop me. Don't you dare show your face again. You're not my daughter anymore. I cannot forgive you. Get out of here. Why? Why am I the only one to be blamed? I don't consider you my family anyway. My sister left without my niece's remains. We'll discuss her divorce at a later date. He nodded in silence. He must have been wrecked with guilt. He gave me everything over a shared asset, and the alimony was paid in full. We divorced after that. You think this is atonement for your sins? You're full of it. You never get rid of your sins. My sister and my husband will serve prison time. The director accused them of child abuse. My sister argued her case with a court-appointed attorney, but no one was on her side. My parents and I were put in court, but we told only the truth. As a result, my sister received a 6-year sentence. My husband's case was quickly settled. He knew that my niece had been left in preschool with a slight fever, and he got 3 years in prison. 6 years and 3 years. How can a person's life be compensated with only 8 years? I feel so empty. These two will never be allowed to see the light of day. 5 years have passed since then. I remarried and gave birth to my child. I will never forget my niece, but it's my child who has healed my wounds. I want to be a mother who is always there for my child. They say sin never goes away, so they will carry it with them for the rest of their lives. They deserve it. No, it's still not enough. Human life is precious. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the weight of grief and guilt hung heavily over all of us. Every day felt like a struggle to come to terms with what had happened and find a way to move forward. My parents and we tried to support each other as best as we could, but the pain ran deep, carving a rift in our family that seemed impossible to mend. For me, the days blurred together in a haze of sorrow and anger. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, not just from my sister and husband, but from life itself. How could fate be so cruel, snatching away the innocent life of my niece and leaving us all shattered in its wake? As time passed, the legal proceedings cast a long shadow over our lives. The courtroom became a battleground where the truth was laid bare and justice sought for the precious life lost. My sister's sentencing felt like a final blow, a grim reminder of the irreversible consequences of her actions. Yet, amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope. My remarriage and the birth of my child brought a ray of light into my world, a chance for redemption and renewal. Holding my newborn in my arms, I felt a profound sense of responsibility and love, a determination to be the best mother I could be. But even as I embraced this new chapter of my life, the memory of my niece remained etched in my heart. She was more than just a victim of circumstance. She was a beacon of innocence and joy extinguished too soon. I vowed to honor her memory by cherishing every moment with my own child and striving to create a future filled with love and compassion. In the end, the journey towards healing was long and arduous, marked by moments of despair and moments of grace. But through it all, I clung to the belief that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always a glimmer of hope on the horizon, a promise of brighter days to come. And as I look back on the trials and tribulations we've endured, I am reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to conquer even the deepest of sorrows.